I'm gonna do a review or a comparison review for the Yepp Maxi and the Thule RideAlong. Now Thule now owns and sells these Yepp Maxi seats, but I believe that Yepp was its own company before until Thule bought it. Now don't quote me on that because I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Now these seats they're both kind of doing the same thing, but in very different ways. And I think they both have some really good highlights, and then they both kind of have lowlights. So I'm going to kind of go through each one and compare each component back and forth between the two. Now, the Yepp Maxi is the one that we put on my wife's bike, and the RideAlong is what I have put on a friend's bike for their daughter. And they're both very good seats and about the same price. So really the deciding factor is kind of what are you looking for in a seat. So let's start with the mounting brackets. The Yepp Maxi comes with this fairly rugged kind of tubular frame mounting bracket. Now the bracket from here down stays on your bike, and then you can remove this piece with the seat if you want to take the seat off. So if you take the seat off, you still have this whole chunky section still on. With the RideAlong, when you remove the seat, this bar comes with the seat, and this plastic component here actually stays with the bike. Installation, I would say the RideAlong was much easier to install and adjust. The Yepp Maxi was more difficult to install and adjust, and the two main reasons. One, the width of the mounting bracket for the Yepp Maxi is pretty much exactly 2 inches. I got my tape measure here. Let's take a look. So it is pretty much exactly 2 inches. And you can see how tight that clearance is. Like, it's pretty much rubbing. Aluminum frame, so I'm not too worried about it, but still, I spent so long trying to get this thing right to the right position, because the other problem is that the seat height above, and this is a medium frame, by the way, above the tire is about 1 inch, and any lower over speed bumps with our son in it would rub the tire a bit. So even though this is a very sturdy frame, it still does flex slightly, so you need some clearance. So getting this thing on this frame was very difficult. Where with the Thule RideAlong, the width is actually exactly 3 inches. Kind of hard to see there. So it has 1/2 inch more clearance on each side, and you can see that right there. There's so much more clearance. So this seat was much easier to install. Looks wise of the brackets, well, you got child seats on, so who really cares? They both look kind of junky. Well, maybe not junky, but clunky. Let's say clunky. So brackets wise, I would definitely say the RideAlong wins compared to the Yepp Maxi. Now, continuing on with the bracket, or how about just the seat tilt? The seat for the Yepp Maxi can be adjusted for the tilt of the seat forward and backwards. And you do that by removing this bolt and put it into a different position. So you've got about, I think, 4 positions that you can move the seat. And the whole idea is to get it so that when your child's in the seat, that they're pretty much riding level. So right now it looks like it's tilting forward, maybe just a tiny bit, but once you put the weight of the kid in, it's perfect. Once you have set it, you do not change it. With the Thule RideAlong, by just pulling a lever down here, you can actually change the tilt or the recline of the seat. So it's very easy to do that. So if you have a child that falls asleep a lot and you want them to be able to recline and have a nap, then the Thule RideAlong definitely wins on that. For us, our son's older, he's not going to fall asleep. Being able to tilt it back really didn't matter to us. Moving the seat forward or backwards, you can do that with the Yepp Maxi, but to do that, you have to undo some or loosen some bolts on the bottom and then slide it forward or backwards. With the RideAlong, by just flipping this down, you can then slide the seat forwards or backwards. And then once you have it in position, you lock it like so. That's nice, except that really right now I have that seat as far back as possible, and that's pretty close to where your butt's gonna be. So moving it forward is not gonna really happen. And again, once you have the seat in the correct position, I don't see you needing to slide it forward and backwards all the time. I think it's one of those things where once you get the seat set up, you're not going to really touch it very much. So again, the RideAlong does have that nice ability, so that's great. But to me, it's not really a necessary thing to have, but depends on the person. One thing, it seems like the Yepp Maxi is losing out a lot here, but the Yepp Maxi is very rigid. So this frame, that mount and everything is very rigid. I'm putting a bit of pressure on there and that seat is not moving much. Now I did say that over a speed bump, our son, who's about 32 pounds, does make this thing flex quite a bit. Well, with the RideAlong, with just the same amount of pressure, you can see how much more it moves. The frame on this one, because it's just this kind of like bar, it flexes quite a bit. It flexes a lot actually. So you need to make sure you have much more tire clearance. I've got about 2 inches of clearance compared to the one on the Maxi, because I know this thing is going to be flexing quite a bit over bumps and such. So I do feel that the frame or the mounting system on the Yepp Maxi, it would be great if it was about an inch wider. If it was an inch wider, I'd love it. It'd be perfect. And because I like that it's stiffer and more rigid. This one, again, was much easier, so kind of depends on what you're looking for. Now, adjusting the foot or the feet, pretty much the same, right? So there's just like a lever on the back, and you loosen that, slide up, down, good to go. Same thing with the RideAlong. You pull that, slide it up and down, easy to adjust, no problem. Okay, so they're basically equal in that matter. But one thing I really like about the Thule RideAlong is the way the straps work. Now they do feel kind of like a flimsy plastic, but it's really easy to adjust to the child's foot. So you put the child's foot down, pull this up, pull this sideways, lock it in place, and it's good to go. And then once you want to get them out, you can easily just pop it up and it loosens. With this Yepp Maxi, you can see it's already getting chewed up, and the way you do it is you kind of hook it on there and pull it down. And this is, again, a hard plastic, so it doesn't really go on very nicely. And I find that I don't like those foot straps whatsoever. I think they're going to break sooner than later, and we're going to have problems. So I do like the RideAlong foot strap more. But I like this nice grippy section here, and it's got this nice cup. Our son's foot does not fall out of here or really move around that much. So that's great. With the RideAlong, it's a much more basic foot platform. Now, looking at the seat itself, the seat on the RideAlong is just plastic. It's just a hard plastic, the whole thing. It does have this little foam insert. It's not super thick or anything. It's held on by these 2 little tabs. There's one here. That's all that's holding this thing on, is that, and one right here at the bottom. It can be washed, I believe, but there's no ventilation or anything like that. Where the Yepp Maxi is this kind of rubbery plastic foam. It's flexy, lots of air holes for ventilation, and you could hose this thing down with a power washer if you wanted to, if it got dirty. So that's great. So I really like how this is very simplistic and basic and minimalistic. The buckle system, this is a 5-point harness, and it does have a basic buckle that is very difficult to undo. You have to push the center release button and then push the side button. And I don't even know if I could do it with one hand. I might be able to, but it's very, very difficult to do. Oh, you can see how hard this is for me to do. Jeez. You kind of need 2 hands. So one thing, my wife loved that. At first I thought she was going to hate it. And she was like, oh, that's great. I'm like, why? She said, well, that way he can't undo it. And I never even thought about that. So that's great. Other than it is kind of difficult to undo. Where on the RideAlong, it's this much nicer buckle. Like, it's a really nicely made buckle system. It's beautiful, actually. Like, look at how nicely done that was. And it clips in super easy. Beautiful. Now, one thing, though, is a child who's a little bit older could easily just grab that and unclip it. Okay, very easy. One hand, no effort. So if your child is very commonly undoing things and you're worried about them falling out because you're not really looking back to see what they're doing, then that might be a negative thing. It would be nice if Thule maybe made like a little release button here as a safety, but now going up the harness, it's a 3-point harness, where on the RideAlong or the Yepp, it's a 5-point harness. But these shoulder straps are kind of difficult to adjust. They're just standard shoulder straps, where on the RideAlong, they're these really nice, you just push this button and it just releases very easily, and it's super smooth to tighten up. So very, very nicely made. I think this strap system is really nice. I wish everything, like backpacks and everything, should have that system on there. It's really nice. So that's nice, and it's got the nice shoulder pads. The Yepp just has these kind of foam pads that are also nice, but you know, you have to finick with them or play with them. Height of the shoulder pads, you can have 2 positions on the Yepp Maxi, so 1 and 2, where with the Thule RideAlong, by releasing something on the back, you can actually adjust it quite a bit. There's probably about 10 adjustment positions that you can move it. So much easier to adjust and then lock just using this lever and locking system on the back. Reflectors, well, the Thule has one right there, one big one in the center. The Yepp Maxi has the one big one up top and then 2 at the feet. And lastly, that I can think of, is the total width of these seats. So the width of the RideAlong is fairly wide at about 18 inches. So it's about 18 inches wide, where the Yepp Maxi is about 15.5 inches. So the RideAlong is about 2.5 inches wider. Okay, so I think this is a long video, but I tried looking up what the differences were and which one was better when we were buying one, so hopefully this helps. In the end, I'm very happy with the purchase with buying the Yepp Maxi because it suits our needs. I like the minimalistic approach to it. We don't need adjustment for tilt back and forth. We didn't need to be able to slide it back and forth all the time. I wish that these foot straps, that's my biggest complaint, are those foot straps. I wish that those were better, but they work. So who really cares? I wish that was different, and I wish that this was wider. Even by half an inch would have been so much nicer. So I think that if you're framed, you should measure your frame, and if your frame is about 2 inches wide, then you need to get the RideAlong. And it's just going to be so much easier to install. The bracket system is much easier. But I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where the RideAlong also has a lot of little gadgety type things. It's kind of like, do you need to be able to tilt? Do you need to slide forward and backwards? So really, in the end, if someone said which is the better one, I would say it completely depends on what you're looking for. I want something that we could go on mountain bike trails on. Nothing crazy, but just if it gets muddy, dirty, whatever, who cares? I like this one. I like this nice and rigid and strong. Our son is very big and heavy already, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't moving a lot. If you have a smaller child and you're commuting and you want the kid to be comfortable and have a really easy to install, easy seat, then the RideAlong is definitely going to be the better choice. So anyways, I know this is a long video. If you made it through, congratulations. I hope that this made sense. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them my way. If I can answer them, I will. Yeah, so please leave your comments down below, and thanks for tuning in.